seconds. One more minute. All right, good evening, everyone. It's 6:05. Hopefully you have enough time for everyone to join us. Thank you again tonight for our summer empowerment edition of Economic Empowerment with the National Black MBA. Again, you see our theme this year is Renew, Refresh, and Reset. So we are aligned with our national organization, and we are looking to continue to make 2021 a lot better than 2020. So I'm going to get started because we have an action-packed panel tonight, and this is a very exciting time, especially for the city of Memphis. And so I would love to quickly just introduce the agenda for tonight. You know, it's going to be really quick, where we're going to kind of share a little bit about our organization, but quickly introduce our panelists, and then kind of talk about what's coming up with the National Black MBA. And so with further ado, I would like to also introduce our board members, myself as President, Daryl Joyce, Vice President of Operations, Robin Tucker, our Vice President of Membership, Alicia Hill, as well as our Vice President of Administration, Kamisha Wilson. So with this, I will pass on to Kamisha to kind of go over our history. Thank you.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. It's turned out to be a pretty day in Memphis, so we're glad you're here. So the Memphis chapter has been a pillar in the Memphis community since 1983. We stand and serve on four foundations, or three main foundations, which is education and career exploration, leadership and professional development, and economic prosperity. Our mission is that we lead in the creation of educational opportunities and economic growth for African Americans here in Memphis. Here in Memphis. Next slide. So here we are always here to help, here to support the Memphis professional. You can connect with us in several ways on social media. So on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram, as well as contact us through the Memphis chapter email, And we are always looking for new ideas for our chapter events and our programming. We're always looking for new members to support us in the efforts that we have going on. So as we are ramping up the second half of our calendar year, we'll talk a little bit more about some exciting things we have going. But if you would like to be a committee member or join us in making this chapter great, please connect with us through one of those social media links or via email, and we will be happy to bring you into the fold. Another part of the Memphis chapter is our Leaders of Tomorrow program. And this program is specifically for high school students, and where we help them and prep them in leadership, financial literacy, college prep, and career prep. So these high school students meet once a month to develop skills in these different programs. For our Leaders of Tomorrow, we're always looking for mentors to help with the program. We're always looking for more high school students. You know, we know that we have plenty of students here in Memphis. So if you have a student that you would like to nominate to participate in this program, let one of the chapter leaders know, and we would be happy to connect them. As well as if you would like to be a mentor, or your job or organization that you work for would like to sponsor our Leaders of Tomorrow program, there are opportunities there for that as well. And with that, Daryl, I think I am turning it back over to you.
Thank you, Kamisha. So it is my honor to present our panel and our moderator for tonight. So I would like to introduce our moderator. Mr. Cortez Stewart was born here in Memphis, Tennessee, and raised in Riverside, California, right outside of Los Angeles. His goal is becoming a financial planner to normalize conversations that were taboo growing up and pertaining to finances. Cortez now provides his clients with authentic, holistic, and fee-based advice for achieving their life goals. He coaches ambitious professionals to create financial security, generational impact for them and their families, and helping clients save money, be tax smart, and overcome numerous traps of building wealth. So with further ado, I'd like to introduce again our moderator for tonight, Cortez Stewart. Next, I would like to introduce our first panelist, Ms. Ronnie Brewer. She is the CEO of Progeny Place. She is a community-based minded professional who is passionate about building strong communities. She advocates daily on behalf of underrepresented groups, fostering the behalf of all the communities deserving to get access to prosperity. Ronnie also has years of experience in event planning, leadership development, and community relations through her commitments of various organizations such as Women in Leadership, Leaning on Wisdom in Memphis, Tithe, the Memphis Urban League, NAACP, and COPPER, the Coalition for Organizing and Perfecting People's Equal Rights. We're excited to have her, as she is also a member of the National Coalition of Black Women and a fellow of the Leadership Memphis Executive Class. Thank you and welcome. And then we also have our second panelist is Ms. Joanne Massey, who currently serves as the City of Memphis Director of Business Diversity and Compliance. Joanne is also a founder and principal consultant for Lewis Massey Associates. And in this role, she is responsible for counseling clients on business expansion, acquisitions, procurement opportunities, navigating community and government ecosystems. She was awarded a certification in economic development from Harvard University Executive Education Program, and she has served as the lead business development consultant for Governor Bill Haslam's Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. I think it's very exciting to hear that during her time with the state of Tennessee, Joanne successfully managed to secure over $300 million in investments for West Tennessee counties through new business expansions. And she is also recognized as a community leader with accolades such as the Memphis Business Journal's Top 40 Under 40, Leadership Memphis Executive Class 2014, and a top performer of Shelby County government. So thank you for joining us, Joanne. And last but not least, Mr. Ernest Strickland. Mr. Strickland is a new president and CEO of the Black Business Association of Memphis. He has led a multitude of successful business and work fair development projects throughout his career. Mr. Strickland comes to the BBA after a stellar 15-year career with the Greater Memphis Chamber. In his last role at the Chamber, he served as the Senior Vice President of the Workforce, and he launched Memphis's community-wide workforce development initiative, Upskill 901, a program aimed at upskilling 10,000 individuals over a 3-year time frame. That's just an excellent opportunity. That sounds amazing. Mr. Strickland also holds a bachelor's degree in professional studies from the University of Memphis and a master's degree from Bethel University Executive MBA program. So without further ado, I would like to present our guest panelist. Cortez, thank you.
You're on mute, Cortez.
I guess that's a great way to start, isn't it? I was rolling. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm excited to moderate this conversation this evening with our great panelists that will be discussing business and leadership within the city of Memphis. You're going to be privileged this evening to get some great nuggets and advice. So I hope you have some pen and paper and you're taking notes because you're going to get some nuggets this evening. So I know you've heard each person's bio, but each of the panelists, if you would just take a quick brief moment, and I want you just to tell us about yourself, your organization, and the work that you do within the city of Memphis. Let's start, Ernest, let's start with you.
Thank you, and good evening. Thanks for the invite. It's a pleasure to serve on the panel. You know, after introducing Joanne and Ronnie, there you could have just said, and Ernest, because I am with a strong group of panelists. I appreciate it. So my organization, the Black Business Association of Memphis, As a 47-year-old organization, we're focused on a mission of creating, a strong Black business climate and strong Black businesses through education, networking, advocacy. We're located inside of the Entrepreneur Network Center, along with Joanne, Director Massey, right there on the corner of Danny Thomas and Dr. Martin Luther King Avenue. And I would say that if dreams had an address, it would be in our building, the Universal Life Building. Whereas Danny Thomas had the dream of, curing the world of pediatric cancer, and Dr. King had the dream of curing the world of the cancer of racism, injustice, and inequality. I am fortunate to be in that building and to be able to do the work that we're doing.
That's awesome. Let's go with Ronnie next.
Thank you, Cortez. So the work that we do at Progeny Place is really built around a need that I'm extremely passionate about. So you said, tell a little bit about yourself. So it comes out of my passion. So in 2005, I suffered a stroke and I realized how difficult it could be to get back into the workforce after having that type of experience. And for me, it built a deep empathy for those that were trying to overcome barriers to get back into the workforce. Additionally, what I had to do was lean on some of my skill set and start my own businesses in order to support myself. And that also built for me an understanding of the challenges and barriers to being a bootstrapping business per se. So when I think about the work of Progeny Place, I look at it as a way to combine all of my passions in one place. But it's about teaching what I consider to be the ABC 1, 2, 3s of small business development, but also those core necessary skills that you need in order to obtain a better paying job. We have lots of people out here who are working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. And we just want to be in that situation where we can assist them either by starting a business or assist them by helping them to get the training that they need so that they can be a part of the joint prosperity of our region. So that's me, and that's what we do.
Thanks, Ronnie. Now, Joanne.
All right. Well, I'm Joanne Massey, and I get to work with these amazing people on a regular basis. And that is true. But I also lead an organization within city government that is called the Office of Business Diversity and Compliance, which is basically a compilation of city government services and resources to support small businesses in our community with a focus on minority and women businesses. Ernest mentioned the Business Center, the Entrepreneurs Network Center, which we operate, and I and my team get to administer resources and services from there. But it's truly a collective, so it's not a focus on what we do at the city, because Mayor Strickland will say it all the time. There's no way that the city can do this heavy lifting alone. So with partners like BBA, of course, Prodigy and Ronnie and her group, and even the National Black MBA organization, which I work with in, on a regular basis and get to see what you guys are doing. I support it. I am a very proud member. And I also have to shout out my soror Robin, who is an AKA. And so I was already sold when she told me about your organization, and I got to know all of you. So it's a lot of great work going on in the city. It's not just city government. And so I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Awesome. I told you guys this evening you have some powerhouses this evening that are going to be able to share with you from their places of position the resources that are available to you and give you their experience and their different levels of expertise within business development. So I'm going to start the questions off, hopefully being a resource to you that are in the audience. We are going to save some time for later on for questions. So if you do have questions, you can note those down or in the chat, and we'll get to those at the end. But I want to ask each of you to share just a moment of, as a person is starting to consider doing business in the city of Memphis, What are some resources that can help them with business planning?
I'll start. The Entrepreneur Network Center, as I said, we're located at 480 Dr. Martin Luther King Avenue. Inside of that network and that ecosystem that Joanne and Mayor Strickland has created, you'll have a host of organizations that are capable and accessible to help with business planning. I know the Tennessee Small Business Development Center, for instance, comes to mind. And also, I would encourage entrepreneurs to look at the sector or industry that they're in. There may be an association that has specific resources that are germane to that particular sector or industry. And so that's where I would start if I was a new entrepreneur.
And I didn't want to just jump right in there and have everybody think I was tooting my own horn, but Progeny loves helping new starters. That's what we call them. We feel like we are one of those resources that really kind of helps you develop whether or not you have a viable business, if there's viability to what it is that you are planning to do. Many times folks will start a business idea because they're like, hey, I need this. And if I need it, hundreds of people need it. And that's not necessarily true. So I'm sure later on we'll talk about, viability probably and how do you know if you have a viable business, but definitely don't want to leave out Ernest's 15 years of experience at the chamber. That's another great resource too when you're looking to start a new business.
Joy, did you want to add anything to that, or you felt like that was covered?
No, it definitely was covered well.
Okay, great. So the next question I'll ask, so those are some local resources that I hope you all are taking note of. So now the question would be, how do you know when it's the time to start a company? I know a lot of entrepreneurs and people in the city have thoughts of creating businesses. What are some tips you would give them that says, hey, this is when you know it's time for you to start thinking about, as you kind of indicated a little bit earlier, Ronnie, what kind of structure, what kind of business entity you want to develop?
Well, only because you said my name. I would say that it's after you've done your due diligence, right? So after you've done a bit of discovery work to find out what other solutions are out there for what it is that you want to do? What are people currently doing? If your business doesn't exist, what are the alternatives that they're using currently? Also, what does your customer base look like? Are there enough people out there that are going to have this need? Essentially, that's going to provide enough revenue to cover your overhead and you make a profit. So really, it's time to start a business after you've done your due diligence and you've put it down to paper. So I'm old and I like paper, but it's something about like putting it to paper that makes you say, okay, this is real. I've looked at this, I've worked this out, and not that impulsive, like I got this great idea and I think I just want to go run out and start this business.
That's great advice. I hope you guys wrote that down. Put it to paper. Not just the concept, but put it to paper. Usually when you have it on paper, that means that's something you can actually materialize. Any thing you want to add to that, Joanne or Ernest?
I'll tell you, Cortez, if this was an NBA team, we would be all stars. And I'm not going to hog the ball. So I think, again, Ronnie's answer was spot on. So yes, due diligence is important.
I would add that in many markets, we see entrepreneurs starting businesses based on opportunity, based on the things that Ronnie mentioned. After doing the due diligence, they've identified a market. But unfortunately, here locally, we see people starting business out of necessity. And that's not always the best avenue, the best starting point, because you may be passionate or you may be in a situation where the job market is not satisfying the compensation that you know your skills should demand. So you look at a business venture essentially to avoid low wages. I would say, you know, I would caution individuals from starting strictly out of necessity. Of course, necessity can be a variable, but you know, look at those variables that Ronnie mentioned while doing your due diligence, and make sure that there's a market and that your product or service has a go-to-market strategy that can allow you to capture a percentage of that market so that you can be successful.
I love that, Ernest. That's great. So that leads into our next question. How do you use research to identify your prospective customers? So it's one thing to say you've created a business, but what is that business in the business for? And is there a demand for that business? I'll just leave the question open, or Ernest, if you want to take that kind of just to go further with, you know, not just establishing based on necessity, but making sure that there is a need for the service that you're providing.
Yeah, there's when I chaired the Downtown Memphis Commission, I remember we would incentivize companies for starting business in the Central Business Improvement District. And it would really bother me that there were some companies starting. We knew that they were likely to fail, but you know, the way the program was described, they met the criteria. A better way is, to your point, using research. There's one firm called Buxton, actually Buxton Reports is the organization. They produce documents that not only give you market analysis, but it's market analysis specific to where you're thinking about opening your business. For instance, when you go to Walmart in one part of town, the end cap will look different from a Walmart in another part of town. That's because Walmart uses propensity reports. They know that the products on the product that they have on the end cap has the propensity to sell at that particular location. And entrepreneurs can use the same level of data to determine if their businesses have the propensity to be successful at a particular location. So I would definitely recommend, you know, using research such as Buxton and other type of tools to make sure that you have data guiding the decisions that you're making.
Joanne, I want to tap you here and kind of ask, so what is the city of Memphis doing to help grow minority and women-owned businesses?
So city government in and of itself is pretty much working to execute on the programs that we have created to address the disparities that have been identified. Ernest mentioned earlier that, you know, we do operate on data, and that's pretty much the entire team, not just any one organization. We're very data-driven to be prescriptive to address the challenges that businesses have, because as you can imagine, I mean, this panel is a really important panel for people to be here to hear information, but people don't have time for a lot of fluff. And so from a city government standpoint, we operate to be very prescriptive with what we offer. What we offer includes, you know, of course, workshops, but it's more not just workshops that are just informative, but workshops that provide training and provides, you know, tangible information for businesses to be able to apply as they compete in the market for contract opportunities, or, you know, expanding their business, supporting their business. And, you know, Ernest, you'll hear him talk a lot about the workforce side and professional development side and what BBA is doing. We're really excited about those things. But if you imagine a surgeon in a medical room, the city government is a surgeon. We're not coming in there to, you know, give massages and, you know, do hair or whatever the case may be. We're coming in there to fix the problem that is. And in our community, we know The problem is economic and the lack of economic empowerment, which is what this panel is about and why we're here, and also social mobility. And so fixing those issues is a heavy lift and not one that I see being done, at least in this mayor's term. However, I can say, and I'm really proud to say, that we have truly made huge strides in progress. And again, we're here having this conversation, and we have so many partners that we work with.
Joan, I love that. I applaud you and all of the panel for being on this panel this evening, because this is a necessary conversation to have. And I appreciate the forum is available so people can know that there are resources that they can actually call someone, go and actually obtain, and they don't have to do it on their own. But there are people that are here positioned and ready to help. Ronnie, I want to come to you and ask, so from your perspective, that same question, but as an entrepreneur in the city of Memphis, and I'm sure you've used some of the resources that we've talked about, give us a perspective how it's benefited you in your business and how you've developed in your business.
So I will tell you that when I first started doing business in Memphis, I struggled through resources. And so it is through being able to tap into a lot of the things that Joanne's office offered kind of in my earlier days. I'm like, I need resources. And there were like folks that from the Urban League, I had relationships with them, and they were like, oh, I work with Joanne Massey. We have this workshop. You should watch that workshop. It kind of gave me a lot of direction. And then also I work a lot with the chamber. Like Ernest will tell you, I am not shy about picking up the phone and calling and saying, okay, look, Ernest, I'm trying to figure this out. Do you know where I find this? Because that is absolutely necessary. And so what happens being in the place that I'm in, not just as an entrepreneur myself, but as an entrepreneur who is aspiring to help build other entrepreneurs, my resources become their resources. So what I see from the city perspective is, yep, I'm just the little engine that could, but now this engine can hook up my little caboose to Joanne, or my little caboose to Ernest, or other resources that are there that are going to benefit the folks that walk through our doors, the folks that we touch. So when I look at this from a city perspective, I remember, going to these contracting meetings and walking out with my head down going, man, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. But then I also remember having that piece of hope installed when someone says, but this is how you can. This is how you can actually qualify for this. And so what seemed insurmountable in recent years has become more attainable. And as it becomes more attainable for me, then it also becomes more attainable for the ones that I touch. So from a city perspective, I think that is how I see the city of Memphis helping us as minority entrepreneurs.
I love that. And I hope people are listening. You actually had a challenge. Someone referred you to the resource. You took the action to make the connections. And we're now talking to you today about encouraging others to do the same. So I hope we continue to do this, because that's how we get the word out there. Ernest, I want to come back to you and talk to you. So you kind of said something earlier that stuck in my mind about establishing a business out of necessity versus establishing a business because of either an established need or because there's a demand and you are equipped to do that demand. For your seat and what you do, what would you say are some of the nuances of securing government contracts that most people wouldn't know, or resources that they can come and actually get through your organization specifically, as Ronnie did?
Yeah, I like to say that 1 hour consultation with me is not 1 hour. It's 20 years condensed in 1 hour. And so you get the benefit of all of my experience, expertise, resources, and connections. Just as Ronnie mentioned, we're very giving of those resources. And we want to be a multiplier for companies that come through our doors. one tip that I would give, it's interesting because Ronnie, Joanne, and myself, we're not just in these positions, we're also entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs as well. Joanne's had businesses, Ronnie, business owner. I've had a business, several businesses. And in fact, I went through the contracting process myself with Joanne's office to get my company set up as a SBE and minority-owned business as well. So one tip I would give is when you're looking at government contracts, it's just that, government contracts, and they have public records where they have to provide access to certain information. You can essentially, if you're looking to work with City of Memphis, you can look back to see what past contracts look like, who won those awards, how much they, how much the award amount was. All of that should be a part of your due diligence as you look to put together a robust proposal. And so the tip that I would give is, don't guess at it. If it's government, there's an opportunity for you to take a look at who won the award in the past and allow that to be a guide for how you put your proposal together.
I love that. Joanne, I want to kind of further that conversation. Of course, we're talking about, what are the nuances of securing, the difficulties or barriers for people getting to the city to ask for these resources. But in addition to that, could you probably cue us into some resources beyond just contracts of actually getting revenue for a business that's starting out?
Yeah, so I get a lot of calls from people, and just to be clear, Cortez, I come from the private sector, but one of my mentors had told me, you're like a trifecta, because I've worked in, local government, I've worked in the private sector, and then I've worked in state government. But our office and myself, we're really approachable. I get people call me all the time, and I actually get people to call sometimes our office, and I'll answer the phone and they are surprised, but the phone is ringing. So when I was young, my mother said, if the phone is ringing, you're supposed to answer it. And that's just that. So I answer the phone, and I'm there and available to answer questions people can ask. So government is not as, and Ronnie and I have had this discussion, it may seem intimidating, but I'm just encouraging and really want to recruit every single person that you have attending this or listening in on this. An ambassador say, it's okay to call. Don't be afraid, because they're actually there to help. We really want to, help everyone. And I know there are stereotypes as well, but I can assure you that we operate a team that is focused on breaking those stereotypes and working with government. So I think besides contract opportunities, recently, when I get those calls, people ask, well, where's the grants for businesses? Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, the city of Memphis does not have grants for businesses. We had some grant money that the federal government gave us and a lot of other municipalities through the CARES Act. And it was about $5 million. We were able to serve 400 businesses with that $5 million. However, we had over 2,000 applications. So there is not enough money in grants, but there are very reasonable microloans that we have. For those folks that are my finance people like myself on this call, we're talking about 4% interest. We're talking about government underwriting, where we're basically looking at the feasibility of your business. And we're also looking at, who you serve and what the opportunities are. So it's really possible for you to get microloans. And then the other resources we've already talked about, particularly with, the different opportunities within city government for people to procure services and resources. So that's it.
There you have it, folks. you have at least 3 resources that are available to you and are willing and ready to help you achieve what you want to do with your business. I want to be sensitive of time. We want to open it up to general questions, but I want to pose this last question to each of the panelists that I want you to think of. Ernest, you clued me into this about you all not just functioning in your roles professionally, but each of you have been entrepreneurs or are entrepreneurs. So you're not just coming from a perspective of I'm providing resources, but at some point you had to go and obtain these resources, and the work you're encouraging others to do, you have done. And so if you could give advice, a tidbit of advice, what would that advice be to someone that's considering starting a business, considering the conversation that we've had so far? What are some things that you would clue them in on that says, hey, I'm going to prevent you from having to go through my 20 plus years and the experiences that I've gone through. Here's the straight way to it. Not saying it's going to be easy, but to avoid my mistakes, here's a way to get to it. So Ernest, I'm going to start with you. Share with the audience, just from your perspective, what are some things or advice that you feel based on your experience that you can share?
Sure, and I'm going to just give my secret. You know, my philosophy has always been not to start a business just because the barrier to entry may be low. When that is the case, you're going to have a lot of businesses in that same space, which means your margins are going to be super thin. Instead, look to see where the gaps are and build your business within those gaps. I know city government, you mentioned earlier, they're always looking to have an increased number of firms, particularly minority-owned firms, in areas that they traditionally just have not had a lot of capacity. And so the tip that I would provide is look to build your business within those gaps so that you can have fewer other companies and businesses to compete with.
Ron, I want to ask you the same question.
My apologies. My mouse went crazy. So for me, it starts with your MVP, your minimal viable product. A lot of times when people go into business, they think they got to offer everything that's in that industry that they go into business for. And I will tell you from personal experience, when I first started my very first bakery, I thought that I needed to offer a cake in every flavor that anybody could possibly think that they wanted. It was a mistake. You end up with, all this overhead and inventory and things like that. But people do that no matter the industry. So I try to tell people, keep it simple, right? You need a business card, maybe a 3 to 5 page website. Go out there and sell what makes money for you right now. Don't dig a hole for yourself. Don't get in debt. Don't think you need the fancy slicker. You don't have to get the MacBook Pro right out of the gate. Start with the resources that you have. Assess what you have. Can you do what you need to do with what you have? If you can, great, get started. Do not dig a hole for yourself. So MVP is the way that I would go.
I love that. So I wrote that one down, the MVP. Joanne, I want to ask you the same question. I know you wear many hats. Some will say the MVP. But tell us, like, the personal Joanne, the Joanne that isn't just a representative of the city and of the people, but Joanne that has had to go out and achieve and go through things as an individual as well.
Yeah, so Ernest mentioned about my business, and I think, also it was mentioned in my bio, but my business is still active and viable. I hold a position which, I am careful of my conflict of interest. So most of my business is done outside of Shelby County, but I do have a business and I have a local business partner. The point of it is, I think, and I was going to kind of, being very serious, but make a joke and say, be like Ronnie, because Ronnie is persistent. Can I say persistent with all the S's capitalized? And I love that about her. And so I know I'm supposed to be talking about myself, but there are, business owners like Ronnie who I see are successful. And so for me, I'm a strategist, and I think that everything that has been discussed here kind of leans towards that. Businesses have to strategize. Ronnie said it best, just get out there, do it, find the niche, and just get out there and do it. You don't have to try to do everything. My business itself, I use just all the experience that, and knowledge, and my business is based on my network, which is a very valuable network, thanks to my many years of partnering with Ernest in the chamber. So there's a lot that I'm able to offer, but to the business owners from an advice standpoint, Cortez, I think in summary, be strategic, be persistent, and as Ronnie mentioned, just be focused on what you can offer. And that's what I've been able to do in my business, is focused on helping building a legacy for my children and for my family that is not dependent on any organization or choices people make. So yeah, that's it.
I love that ending and that humility. I think we all think of that same. And I would say, if last year was any lesson for any of us, is we have to make sure we're not solely relying on one source of income. And those that are entrepreneurs, it's being mindful that there are some moments where you don't have control of what's going on, and you got to make sure that there are other revenues other than your 9 to 5 that you rely on or are developing as you grow your family and build legacy and wealth for your family. So I appreciate that nugget. We're going to now open up the floor for any questions that any of you may have in the audience. I know we opened the floor up for questions in the chat, but if you do have audio and would like to ask a question, I'll ask at this moment for you to unmute and ask your question. And I'm sure with this wealth of knowledge and expertise, there gotta be one.
Well, I'll take the first one then, and maybe someone else will jump in behind that. One thing is, I've started my entrepreneur journey. I found that because I was in the space of National Black and have attended events like this, that I knew that there were resources out there. But I found that when I talk to other people that are starting businesses, like in our on that journey, they don't know about these resources. They don't know where to look for them. Like, I've worked with the Tennessee Small Business Development Center, like I've worked with the Epicenter, but they don't know those resources are out there. So I wonder, like, as this is an example of one, but of the forums, but how do we continue to socialize the opportunities that are there that we can take advantage of, to people that want to start businesses, but they aren't in this type of network? Is there one resource out there that we can always direct people to, or, is it kind of, you just have to seek the information yourself? Because I feel like some people would be a lot more successful if they knew where that wealth of knowledge was.
So, Kamisha, if I was in person, I would be jumping up and down and waving my hand saying, me, please call on me. Because I do have a marketing background, but even more importantly than that, just my work as an economic development practitioner. You would not believe how many people in not just this community, but just in the nation period, just don't know about the resources that are available for small businesses, micro businesses, and even larger businesses. Ernest and I used to be a part of an existing business team, and we literally knocked on doors of large businesses and did cold calling to tell them about the, resources and give them the money that the state was trying to give for existing businesses particularly. But I think, and it leads back to what I said earlier, for all those that are on this call, I plead with you to become an ambassador to share this information. At least 10 people that should have been here. Share the information with them. We do everything from churches, organizations, social organizations. We do the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitter. We're on every single one of those. I will say, because I'm also a finance person, I tend to try to be a good fiduciary of the taxpayers' money, because that's your money. So we don't have a lot of commercials. We do a little bit of radio, and you'll hear some on our symposium. We do a massive annual event every year called the We Mean Business Symposium. And shameless plug here, Cortez, if you'll indulge me, that event will occur on June 23rd, 24th. It'll be virtual. It'll be Facebook Live as well as on YouTube. And FedEx is actually one of our sponsors for that event and has been for the last 5 years. But in that event, Commissioner, we're going to be talking about project opportunities and resources available to small business owners from every city division, from organizations like the Downtown Memphis Commission, MATA, MLG&W, Shelby County Schools. My friend Joris Ray is going to be there featured. I could go on and on and on about what is going to happen that day. But guess what? Every business in Memphis is not going to be tuning in. They're just not going to be there. So that's why word of mouth and marketing, and I mentioned about my background, word of mouth and marketing is the strongest thing. You'll never reach every audience. You will never, through different portals, it's word of mouth that's going to be the strongest. And so I challenge you and the others that are on this call to become ambassadors to help our community in being more in economic empowerment and social mobility. And yes, I will put the information in chat.
Yeah, I tell everyone, I was like, oh, this is the best, because TSBCD, I hope I have the acronym right, has been a great big help for me. So I do think that's one thing that I think is entrepreneur network here, that people just don't know about those resources, unfortunately. And they struggle in ways that they don't have to.
I would add that, the pandemic really has caused many businesses to shift their model and really accelerate the transition to online and virtual, using digital marketing tools in order to socialize messages. We're going to be doing a lot more of that at the BBA. And in fact, we have a relationship with the U.S. Black Chamber. We're partnering with them to bring what's called Grow with Google digital marketing tools to the market. On June 15th, you can go to our website, BBAMemphis.com. We're going to have the first of 5 trainings where we'll be showing individuals how to use digital tools in order to promote their products and services, but also to the question to promote the resources that are available in our community. I have the benefit of working with my son who's into music. And so we run a lot of Facebook ads on Instagram, TikTok, and for very little money, you can really get thousands of impressions, which is getting your message on the screen on the phone screen of the target audience that we're wanting to get in front of. And so go to our website, as Joanne said, shameless plug, BBAMemphis.com, click on events, and you'll see the June 15th program.
So if I could just briefly add to that, I like to tell people to share your good thing, right? So what I noticed early on in my entrepreneurship journey is that there were people out there that knew a lot of good information, but they weren't sharing it, as if they shared it, it was going to pull away from their opportunity. And that's not the case in this particular situation. It's like, hey, if you know a resource for entrepreneurs, then share it. So one of the things that we do is that every time we have a cohort go through, we create a group for them on Group Meet. And the purpose of that is to encourage them to share their good things. So when they know that there's a conference going up, a lot of times it encourages them to share like a space. So then they split the cost instead of them having to pay for a booth by themselves. 2 or 3 of them will get together and do a booth. That's the only way that we're going to share this in the community that actually needs this information. Many times it's the folks who don't really need it who get it. So like as Joanne was talking and Ernest was talking, I was over here, oh, okay, we mean business is on the 23rd. I didn't wrote down, grow with Google. I'm going to share that information with the people that I touch, but we need more people doing that. We need people being intentional about sharing it, because I'm going to tell you something. Joanne's office, they are always doing something, always sending something out. Ernest has not even been in his position that long, and I'm getting a whole lot of BBA information. The information is there, but the folks that are getting it are hoarding it and not sharing it with the larger population. And until we change that mindset, Kamisha, I'm sorry, but you're still going to have a lot of people saying, I don't know where this is. Or you're still going to have the intimidation factor where they think that it's not for them. And it is. That's what all this hard work is for. It's for them. So I would just say, the next time you have some information, you be intentional. You take that information and share it with 3 people. And you'll start to see, like a shift in people sharing information.
I love that. So, if we can take anything from our conversation today, I'll leave you with this. Your network grows your net worth. And I think each one of our panelists has described to you their role, how they are passionate about helping you grow and be the best that you can be using what they have at their disposal. I would hope and encourage you to take heed to that and actually utilize that advice and that welcome mat, and share this video. Many times, people are, because of time and other things, weren't able to join. But if you know of someone that's considering becoming an entrepreneur or just considering the thought of entrepreneurship, these are 3 great persons in the city to make a part of your network in order to grow your net worth. Panel, I want to thank you guys for your time, your expertise, for this evening. And Daryl, I want to kick it back to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Hopefully I can share this screen properly. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for all our panelists. Thank you, Cortez, tonight for leading in moderation. I want to wrap this up real quickly. I'll be remiss not to talk about our conference. It's going to be in Chicago this year. We are excited. We are excited again, renewed, refreshed, and reset. We're going back at home where it started from in Chicago. This year's conference will be twofold. There are 2 weekends. It's going to be September 14th through the 18th in Chicago, and then the following week, the 21st through 22nd, virtual. So we have 2 parts. So there's a digital and a virtual part, so everybody can feel comfortable with what they want to do as far as traveling. But registration has already went out. Early bird pricing is going out, as you can see, through July 9th. And so I'll be remiss not to talk about it. This is a conference that I promised myself that I will not miss. And I've made that promise for the last 8 years. You do not want to miss this. This is a village. The same type of great experience we had tonight continues on a literally global level when you go to conference. So I definitely want to make sure you get this information. If you have any questions, reach out to any of us on our board, any of the members about more questions about the conference. And then I just want to again thank everyone for joining us tonight. Please again enjoy, be safe. We usually take July off, so enjoy the holidays, the 4th of July with your families, and we will look forward to hearing from and seeing you all soon. In August, we will send out announcements about our next meetings. Thank you and have a good night. I think I meant to put that in the chat. So if anybody's still on, I forgot to hit enter, but the information of the conference is in the chat if you wanted that website.